I promised. Part 3, Shadow Play. Dark clouds were playing tag in the night sky, high above the silent 100-acre wood. As they wheeled and rushed across the face of the full moon, their shadows danced along the forest floor below and scurried through the trees in their own game of hide and seek. At Kanga's house, the shadows appeared to be creeping along the outside walls and peeking curiously into Rue's bedroom window. Rue sat motionless on his bed. Motionless without motion, without moving, sitting very still and quietly. Rue sat motionless on his bed, the covers pulled up so far that all that could be seen is in his bed, only his ears and wide-awake eyes showing. He was watching the restless shadows on the walls and ceiling as they played tricks with what little light there was. "Mama!" squeaked Rue, barely able to push the word through his throat. At the sound of his voice, the shadows stopped moving and hovered expectantly. "Mama!" Rue repeated, a bit more loudly this time. "May I have a drink of water, please?" "Coming, Rue dear," answered Kanga. As the shadows heard Kanga hopping down the hallway towards Rue's room, they instantly darted out of sight, hiding behind curtains, inside carelessly left open dresser drawers and under the bed.
Can he get up and do it by himself?
I suppose he might be able to get up and get him by himself, but what he really wants is not a drink of water, although that's what he asked his mama for. He wants his mama to come in his room because the shadows in his room are scaring him, and he wants his mama to help comfort him. So the shadows are hiding. When Kanga opened the door, holding a candle and a cup of cold water, there was nothing moving but Rue, who was climbing out cautiously from beneath his cozy barricade of bedclothes. "Is everything all right, Rue?" "Bedclothes, blankets, and sheets." "Is everything all right, Rue?" asked Kanga gently as she handed her son the cup of water. "Oh, sure," replied Rue as casually as he could. "I'm just a little thirsty." "Very thirsty, I would say," Kanga chuckled quietly as she watched Rue drink. "This is the third time tonight you've asked for water." "It's all that yawning," Rue answered, thinking quickly. Immediately he pretended to yawn, the very biggest yawn he'd ever yawned.
It's like why?
It stretched ever so much wider than the polite paw he raised to cover his mouth. "See, Mother," he said when he finally managed to get his mouth closed. "Wouldn't that make you thirsty?" "Absolutely." Kanga smiled. Accepting the empty cup Rue held out to her, Kanga added almost as an afterthought,
When is this over?
"In another few minutes."
Why?
"When I was a very small girl, it was the dark that made me thirsty. I must have asked my mother for a glass of water 100 times when all I really wanted was a light. But I thought I was too old to need one anymore." Rue grinned, and his black eyes sparkled, because he knew Kanga about as well as any child can know his mother. "Nice try, Mama," he said, "but you said I was big enough to sleep without a nightlight." "No," Kanga reminded him. "You said you were big enough. I said, 'We'll see, dear.'" "Does that mean you don't think I'm big enough?" Rue asked, disappointment in his voice. Kanga Kanga sat down on the bed next to Roo.
This is fine.
Disappointment, feeling sad. Kanga sat down on the bed next to Roo and put her arm around his shoulders. "Oh, no, Roo," she assured him. "That's not what I think at all." Roo looked up at Kanga gratefully. "You don't?" "Of course not," she said, giving him a squeeze. "I was simply wondering whether the shadows have come to visit you yet." "Shadows?" Roo repeated cautiously. "What shadows?" "Oh," Kanga replied, "they're very frightening, but only until you get to know them. Have you seen any?" "Well, maybe," said Roo slowly. "What do they look like?" "You'd know them if you saw them," Kanga said. "There's one that bounces through the window and makes the curtains flutter. Especially when there's a full moon, like tonight. And another one that likes to hide in the closet and make the clothes sway and shake like someone's in them," added Roo. "And one that hides under the bed and rolls around until the floor squeaks and moans," finished Kanga. "So you have seen them." "Uh-huh," admitted Roo. "But what do you mean they're only frightening until you get to know them?" "Ah," sighed Kanga. "When you find out why they're here, it makes the night time so much more pleasant." "Why are they here?" Roo wanted to know. "Well," Kanga began thoughtfully, "you know when you sometimes find something in the pocket of an old jacket you thought had been lost long ago?" "Sure," Roo smiled. "That's always a nice surprise." "That's the shadow in the closet," explained Kanga. It comes across something
Where's our boy?
that's been lost or forgotten, and it brings it back to where it will be found."
Wow!
Gasped Roo. "Our cats are not here right now, honey, so let's keep reading. And the shadow that flutters the curtains wants to make sure that no one misses. How beautiful, the 100-acre..." Okay, here's our black cat right down there. "And the shadow that flutters the curtains wants to make sure that no one misses how beautiful the 100-acre wood looks in the moonlight," Kanga continued. "What about the one under the bed?" whispers Roo, not wanting to draw the shadow's attention until he was absolutely sure it was safe to do so. "It has to do with the floor under the bed," Kanga whispered back. "It seems floors under beds get very little attention. No one scuffs them or tracks mud on them or even spills anything on them. They get very lonely as well as very dusty. So the shadow cheers them up," guessed Roo. "Yes," Kanga nodded, "and it's very much like scratching a cat between the ears. Those creaks and groans are a floor's way of purring." "That's neat," shouted Roo, jumping up and down on his bed in excitement. "And there are many other shadows that I don't really know anything about, but knowing the few I do to be so very friendly, I'm sure they're all just as helpful and courteous. Aren't you?" "Sure," Roo answered at the top of his voice. Then he continued more quietly. "Mama, you can go back to bed now. In a few minutes. I don't think I'll be thirsty any more tonight." "All right, dear," said Kanga. She kissed Roo on the forehead. "Good night." "Mama," said Roo as Kanga opened his door to leave. "Yes, dear?" "Any time you want," he said, "you can leave the light in your room and come watch the shadows with me." "Why, thank you, Roo," said Kanga. "I may very well do that some day." She smiled in the darkness. "Someday, very soon. Good night, Mama." "Good night, Roo. Sleep well." Okay, I'm going to turn this.